Are you planning to travel this year? There are a lot of hot topics going on right now in the news, happening globally, that is making a lot of people question that.
Now, we want this video to be interactive. We're asking you the question. We want to hear your answers to these topics because honestly, we don't know. We know what we're going to do this year, but we want to know what you're going to do this year or what you're not going to do this year.
The biggest thing that comes to mind is after COVID, we were all stuck at home for a couple years where traveling wasn't even an option. And then everybody hit the road running.
Yeah,
right?
everybody was traveling.
They were ready to go, ready to get out of their house, ready to get out of their country and go and travel. And now I think a lot of people are just feeling a little burned out from that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the reason being is, you know, all the other things that are going on besides that you just recently did a trip. Let's touch on some of those. So the obvious first question is, are you planning on traveling this year or are you going to sit this one out?
Yeah, this seems to be a very hot topic right now, mainly because after COVID, all of us were locked up for 2 years or more where we really couldn't travel. It wasn't an option at all. And so after that, and the ability came available again, everybody just kind of hit the ground running. So after now a couple years of traveling full bore, are you burned out of that traveling? I mean, we definitely saw it on the road, how many people were out traveling. We saw the towns were just busy.
It was
a lot
very
of
busy.
tourists.
It was very busy, and we're going to touch on some of that later on in this video. So again, we want to hear from you. Is that the case? Did you do all your travel, and now you're choosing to stay home? Because we have noticed that the crowds aren't quite as big. Now, we haven't gone to maybe some of those massive touristy places like places in Italy, for example, which was crazy last year. It just seems like maybe you're staying home.
So now the next question would be, are you planning, if you are going to be traveling, are you planning to travel internationally? Or maybe you're just choosing to stay domestic and travel closer to home?
So if that is the case, if you did travel last year, this year you're deciding to take a break. Is it a break from travel altogether, or are you going to travel in your car domestically and go to some of these great national parks we have here in the United States? Who knows? I mean, there's all kinds of options, but we're just curious.
Yeah, you know, I think that there's an appeal to domestic travel because it is a lot easier. You are not planning having to align all these different flights, buses, language barriers, all of that. And so we definitely get that because for us, it is an appeal later down the road. We aren't there yet, but it will be something that we will definitely have on the board to do.
Right.
But we do see the appeal, yeah. So we're interested to know, maybe people are just staying closer to home.
So now when we refer to domestic travel, we're not just talking about us here in the United States. You up there in Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, wherever you're from, are you staying home? Which leads to our question number 3. If so, is it because of inflation? Is it what you can afford to do?
Yeah, I think inflation is hitting everybody hard around the world. And when you are already facing inflation just in your daily living costs, looking at then adding travel on top of that is a big burden. And then those prices, we are definitely seeing those prices rise from your flight cost, accommodation cost definitely, or for sure is going up, and food, eating out, everything.
Everything's going up. Now, there are deals to be made, but you got to look for them. Now, we are combating some of this inflation. You might have seen the recent video we did on it. We are making adjustments in our lifestyle and what we're doing that you may want to consider as well.
Everybody's just finding themselves on maybe a little bit stricter budget. Maybe your trips are going to be shorter. Maybe they're going to be just a little bit more simple, not so extravagant. Now, number 4 is going to be, are you getting tired of all the hidden fees that come along with travel? This seems to be something that is getting us more and more lately.
All these short-term rental platforms all have hidden fees. You know, it says it costs $1,500 a month. You get on the inside and suddenly it's $2,000 a month. You know, the cleaning fees, any other fee that you didn't expect to have is there. Airlines now are starting to do the same thing.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you're paying for, it used to just be on a budget airline that you were paying to get those better seats. It seems like now even the back of the area economy seat. You're paying if you want to just select your seat. You're paying for your baggage. On a regular airline like American, United, Delta, a lot of these, you didn't used to have to pay to check a bag or to bring even that carry-on bag. Some are now starting to do that. This has been in the news lately. There's just a lot of those little nitpicky fees that the other one would be if you want any kind of food while on a flight.
Gotta buy your food now too.
You pretty much are buying your food. There are, with the exception of a lot of international flights, you still are getting fed. But anything leaving the United States, I'm going to throw United States under the bus there, you just are not getting fed.
So I guess the question is travel become annoying?
Yeah.
Because it does get annoying, fee after fee after fee.
Yeah.
So do these fees detour you from doing any kind of extreme travel?
Right. I think that one of the reasons I think that it can detour so many people is that you have set a budget. You think you're working within that budget when you price out the flights, you price out your accommodations, but then as you get there and you start to dig a little deeper, as an example where we are here staying currently, you have the added fee. We did know about it, but a lot of people wouldn't if you didn't read that fine print. We will be getting the electric bill at the end of our month-long stays. The electricity here is expensive, so that could really hit somebody if they weren't expecting that.
Yeah, we're in Punta Cana and we're not using the air conditioning. We got the windows open, we got the fans on. We suffer a little bit, but hey, it's a first world problem. We can deal with it.
Yes.
We don't want to pay for the air conditioning, so there it is.
In our defense there, as we look around the massive complex we're in, very few people do because all the windows are open. So we're not the only ones.
Now this next one is sad but true. Airline safety, there's been so much in the news lately about plane crashes, our folks up in the airline towers that are navigating us. They're limited,
right?
So it's become a big thing right now. Is it safe to fly across the country?
Yeah, I think it's something that's crossing a lot of people's minds. Do they really want to get on a flight right now? Is that part of your deciding factor of not maybe traveling distance-wise, maybe staying closer to home where you can just hop in a car? Everything that we're hearing on the news, though, is that it really hasn't escalated much more than it used to be. It's just that it's in the news right now.
We're hearing about it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did some research on it, and it seems to be about on par.
Right.
But we're aware of it now.
It's just out there. Yeah, so, it would be interesting to know if that's changing other people's minds as well, because it's hard when I know before we got on our flight and we were heading home from Peru, we had 4 different flights, and it seemed like every day there was a report of some kind of plane situation, either a crash or some kind of incident. So definitely makes you question it. This is a huge area of conversation right now. The next one is, are you worried about being stopped at border patrols or crossings and being detained and questioned?
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, if you're here in the United States, it's an interesting topic. We're not going to get into any kind of politics here, but it is a thing. Are you worried about leaving and then being detained when you come home? It's a valid question.
It is. And it is United States, but it's also outside of the United States. There's a lot more border crossings now than there used to be. There's border crossings in the Schengen area, which I think there's now 9 countries that have added border crossings where they're stopping you and they're checking. That used to be the benefit of the Schengen. You just kind of entered in and then you could travel throughout all those countries. And so I think it is an area of concern for a lot of people, especially if you're not familiar with international travel. I can see that if we weren't on the road as much as we were, it might be a deterrent for us.
Yeah, it's something we definitely think about, the visa process, how long you've been in the country, all those things you end up thinking about a lot more when times like this and border crossings and immigrations and all that's in the news. It is something that we think about. Is it something that you think about? So that leads us to number 7. Do you feel like your freedom to travel is shrinking because of all these regulations, because of the visas, because of the ETAIS that Europe is now going to implement sometime.
Sometime.
They keep putting it off, but it is something that is coming. Are all those things just kind of too much of a pain for you to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, there's delays in passports, getting your passports, getting them renewed, getting those visas. It seems like the regulations on visas are becoming a little more, I don't know, there just seems to be more you have to check into before you're going someplace. Like we discussed the Schengen area. When we first started traveling, what was it? Was there 23 countries or something?
24,
around that in the Schengen. Now it's, we believe, I think it's 29 with the addition of Romania and I think Bosnia.
Bulgaria.
Oh, Bulgaria. Yeah. So it seems like some of the areas that we maybe have that ease and freedom to travel to has shrunk down and gets a little bit more challenging and harder. So I think that, once again, it's an area that takes some of the fun out of the flexibility of travel, like just jumping out there and going. Are global conflicts changing maybe your choices of destinations that you're choosing to go to? There's a lot going on right now.
There's a lot going on right now. Of course, you're not going to go to some of these hot spots in the world, but maybe the places next door you're choosing not to go to. Poland is a great country. Romania is fantastic. Are you choosing not to go to those areas because of this recent, well, it's not even recent anymore, it's 3.5 years old, but is it deterring you from even going to Europe at all?
And we've had some people say, this is maybe even 1.5 years ago, we canceled our trip completely just to Europe. We will say that we have traveled in Europe not long after one of the conflicts started, one of the wars. We were in Czech Republic, we were in Poland, we were in areas that at the start we chose not to go to. We personally, you didn't feel anything there. But we get the concern. You are putting yourself closer to those areas. So I think that once again, as you start to on the map look and see where all of these conflicts are taking place, it starts to limit maybe the territory that you're willing to travel to.
Right. Okay, so that's Europe. That's that side of the world. Are you Europeans or Aussies or wherever you're from deciding not to travel to the United States? Now, we know our friends up in Canada are choosing not to. Are any of you choosing not to?
Yeah, and we, as Americans, and we 100% get it, we understand the conflict, we understand the concern right now, even tracking back to the conversation about being detained at a border or questioned or not allowed entry for whatever reason that is. That's just in the news a lot lately. So, you've booked this trip, you come, what if you don't have everything lined up or they question you of your reason of being there or whatever and you're sent away? That would be, first off, a lot of money lost. It's very upsetting.
Right.
So, we get it, but it is a topic where it would be great to hear other people's views of coming into the States right now as a place, a destination to travel to.
And we want to ask, we want you to answer these questions for us. We hope to reply to all of them. If we can't, you'll know that we read them. Please, on some of these questions, don't turn it into something that we don't want to hear, and that's politics. If there's a reason that you're not coming to the United States, or if there's a reason you're not going to Europe, let us know. Be respectful.
Now, on another turn, kind of going along with this one, as an American, are you concerned of how you're going to be treated when you're traveling abroad? Once again, this is a question that we've gotten asked a lot, not just on our channel, but from friends and family of, you're traveling into some of these countries where maybe Americans aren't seen in a real high level right now. So I think it is a valid concern, but I think we can share that we've really not experienced
We've never had any problems at all. We've always been treated with respect. And I think part of that is because we treat others with respect. You reap what you sow in a lot of ways. We did have one gentleman at one point, great guy, ended up being our bartender in Portugal. He said, you guys don't act like typical Americans. My reply was, but we do act like typical Americans. The Americans that maybe he's used to encountering aren't typical. Treat people with respect and they'll reply in kind. So far we haven't had any problems. We'll see this fall.
Yeah, I would say one of the things we always kind of go back to is the people are not the politics. So when you get to a new country, You're assuming what you're hearing in the news from maybe their government of their views on the United States. We get it, that can be alarming, but the people who are at a tourist location, they're running businesses, grocery stores, tour facilities, all of that, they don't necessarily care so much. They care about that you're there and you're visiting their country. And we've really only been encountered with a ton of kindness and welcoming, but it is something that we do keep in mind if there is a country that is like in major conflict with the United States. Obviously, that's not a country that we would openly just choose to go to.
Something else that we've been reading in the news lately is the global warming and the changing of the weather patterns, hurricanes, earthquakes, that sort of thing. Is that something that you think about? We don't necessarily, and we're kind of surprised to read about it sometimes, but you know, hurricanes would be a great example. We're in the Caribbean right now. It's hurricane season. We're going to know well ahead of time before a hurricane hits where we're at. We're going to get out. Maybe we'll stay. Maybe we'll stay.
How big it is.
That'd be a great video. So is it something you think about?
Right, and I think it's a valid concern, and there is a difference between the style of travel that we do and a lot of the audience that watches us do, is that you're full-time traveling. It's not going to affect your one-time vacation out of a year if you choose to go someplace during, say, hurricane season. Unfortunately, hurricane season is quite long, so you become very limited of when you're going to travel in those areas. But I think some of these areas, you know, I mean, there were some very large earthquakes recently. Those are concerns, you know. I mean, there are areas that are just more prone to those things. There's been some heavy flooding in areas, and areas that are just prone to that certain times of the year. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to know if that is something that you also look into and research when you are looking at going to a place.
Yeah, we don't so much, but maybe you do.
This is one of the reasons I think a lot of people look at that shoulder season, because that is something we do. We're kind of in shoulder season where we are right now. You kind of can come in, you're not hitting the crowds, you're not hitting the high prices, but you're coming in before maybe some of that time of year when places are hit with those not natural disasters, but some, I mean, I don't know.
Pretty natural disasters.
Yeah, I mean, hurricanes and any of that kind of stuff that you might be wanting to watch out for.
So the nomadic lifestyle, I don't think it was a fad, but it was something that came along. I think because of COVID, it became popular. It was obviously something before that. But is it becoming less sustainable? Is it something you figure you used to think you could do it, but now maybe you don't think you can?
Yeah, I think that recently we've heard that a lot of people are being called back into the office. I know multiple people, myself personally, that have been home since COVID, and now they're having to go back in for a period of time each week. You know, so it's something that I think is definitely on people's minds of, can they continue to live that lifestyle?
Right. Do they want to live that lifestyle? It seems so cool to go to Costa Rica and work from home or work from home in Costa Rica. And now I think that may be starting to shift.
It's, you know, it's not as cost effective as it used to be. A lot of these places you could go, you could work remotely, you were saving a ton of money, you're living in this tropical location, and yeah, it's just not what it used to be, I think. I think the appeal to it, not that there's not still a ton of people that do live this nomadic life and that do remote work, but I don't think that it's as high as it used to be.
I think that people realize, the majority of us, there's no place like home. Wherever home might be for you, there's no place like home.
So maybe it's like a temporary nomadic
nomadic working thing, yeah.
But let us know your thoughts on it. If you're still working remotely, that's amazing and wonderful. I think that's kind of the best of the world.
We'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Now, we were just reading in the news recently, it's becoming a hot topic again as we're in May, going into June, getting into that prime season, is the tourism, like what they're talking about in the news of that over tourism, and some of these countries are feeling incredibly overwhelmed, starting to make you consider where you want to travel and maybe where you want to stay away from.
The tourism controversy, you know, we all want to be respectful. I talked about that earlier. Do you go to a place like Spain, for example, and be part of the problem? Is that something you think about? Because it is something that we're starting to think about. I don't know how we're going to navigate it quite yet, but it is something that we do think about. Over tourism, are we part of the problem? Do you want to be part of the problem, or do you want to avoid that?
Yeah, you know, in some of these places, like, so Spain as an example, I was just reading, I think it was 66,000 listings on Airbnb. They are requiring them to remove them because they break the laws that they have for short-term rentals.
Right.
You can tell me if I was wrong on those numbers, but I believe that is correct. You know, but that's a lot of rental places, and we get it. These places are just overrun with tourism. Then you also have the places that have chosen to bring in a tourist fee that you're going to pay when you come in. So we've got Amsterdam has it.
Another hidden fee.
Yeah, all these hidden fees. Amsterdam has it, Venice has it, and I know there's other places that have it as well, that you're just paying to enter the popular area of the city that everybody goes to. Once again, we kind of understand it. You know, they want to bring those numbers down a little bit.
Yeah, there are other countries that have tourist fees that we're glad to pay because, again, if you're going to be there using the resources,
Right.
maybe try and pay for them.
Also very much a concern of violence that's kind of coming into play with the locals against tourists when they're entering some of these places. When we were in Oaxaca in Mexico, it was kind of all over the news that it had been going on about a month and a half before we were there, 2 months. We once again were there in more of an off season, so they were very welcoming. But you know, in Spain, that's another one. In Barcelona, I think we all saw it on the news where they were shooting them with water guns.
Water guns. They got a water
still,
fight.
you know, you're sitting having a meal, a nice meal, and all of a sudden you're getting shot with water guns. So I think there's a concern of you want to be respectful, but also you're putting yourself in a situation with people that a lot of people maybe don't want you there.
So we've touched on a number of topics here. Is travel still possible, or has it become just too overwhelming, too concerning to even bother with, and you're just going to stay home?
Yeah, we really do want to hear from you. Make sure and leave those respectful comments down below, please. And you know, and just let us know where you're at, because it's very interesting, not only to us, but to a lot of other people that are watching and viewing as well, of what other people's thoughts and concerns and maybe how they're navigating all those tips kind of help everybody along the way.
Thumbs ups are always appreciated. We would love for you to subscribe, be a part of the channel. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.